So my name is Soenke Zehle. My background is in literature, philosophy, and translation, but today I teach media theory with a particular interest in visual storytelling, which is, I think, what brought me to this discussion. What role for visual storytelling, comics, graphic novels in addressing the wide range of issues and questions that we summarize under migration. I do think that the visual storytelling in comics and graphic novels is a unique, perhaps a singular aesthetic practice. I'm not sure it's competing with other media, but I think the negotiation between how far we can go with language and where we really need visual media is done in an exemplary way in contemporary graphic novels. Sometimes we shouldn't allow the format to define the scope and the complexity of the story, but the scope and the complexity of the story should drive the format and should define the format. Perhaps in that sense, that's the first thing I would say, that graphic novels have a unique contribution to make, in that the scope of the stories they can tell is vast. It's much vaster than a lot of reporting, traditional forms of reportage, and also perhaps even conventional forms of visual storytelling in comics, with 48, 64 pages. So that's one discussion. And the other, I think, is to confront us really with the complexity of visual culture. Is that contemporary visual storytelling in comics and graphic novels has been a tremendously kind of intense process of experimenting with the encounter of different visual cultures. And a lot of books just document this and record these encounters and clashes and conflicts, and remind us of how much difference actually lies within our own visual culture. That it's not a simple question of here we have our visual culture and then there is another, but these exchanges and translations recall how complex and multifaceted really our own kind of visual culture is. And I think that's a sense and a sensibility that we need to better address these kinds of questions. It came out of the idea that for an art academy we need to create an interface to more actively intervene in the future of the digital society. And so the Experimental Media Lab is an attempt to create a research-based interface between art, the fine arts, but also design, and the computing sciences. And for two reasons mainly. One, to better understand what's happening, and to use artistic and aesthetic methods as research methods. So not all research comes from the natural sciences. A lot of artistic practices are experimental in the original sense of the word. They're a type of research. The second reason is that we think more people need to be involved in the design of the digital society. We cannot leave something that is as important as basically the design of infrastructures that will determine how we live, feel, share, work, to a small, essentially a small cadre of technology experts. We need a much wider discussion about this, and the arts, I think, have a unique role to play in this as translators, as contributors, and in facilitators of a culture of co-creation.